Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 345 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com. I'm your host, Anthony Renna. The show notes are located at my site, continuefit.com. You can also get there by going to strengthcoachpodcast.com. All right, today on the strengthcoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner, spent extra time with Coach Boyle to celebrate our 15-year anniversary. Actually, to the day, I just spoke to him. I'm recording this now. Today is 15 years ago. I posted episode 0 of the Strength Coach Podcast, so it's kind of crazy that we're still going. We also actually did a special interview called 40 Years, 40 Mistakes. That is coming out next week. I'm going to give you information eventually, maybe next week, about how to get access to that, so look for that. That's coming out soon. Today, we spoke about getting results from speed training, how he still loves the snatch, but why he does not use it as much. Early specialization, go figure. That's something we've been talking about forever. And cardio training, and really specifically introducing clients to interval training, specifically talking about his article, 12 Great Air Bike Workouts. All right, not only is the member experience platform for modern training gyms. It puts all of your communication with your members in one place, allowing you to keep track of that communication. So important for retention. Hopefully you listened to the last episode. Spoke to Sumit Seth about not only about the member experience, about elevating that member experience. You got to listen to the interview. It's really just a great interview for anybody, never mind even if you don't own a gym. But if you really, ideally, you want to check out Nomly at nomly.com. Use the referral code Strength Coach. You get started on the free 30-day trial. Highly recommend you check that out. All right, for the KISS Marketing Business Secrets for Gym Owners, Vince Gabriele is going to go over some business secrets. He hasn't given me that yet, so I don't know specifically what he's going to talk about. But I do know that KISS Marketing is a digital marketing agency that helps fitness business owners make the big bucks from their marketing without feeling stupid stressed or wasting valuable time figuring out on their own. Check out kissmarketing.net to book a free coaching call with Will Matheson, Vince Gabriele's secret marketing weapon. For the Getting Started with VBT or Velocity-Based Training segment, brought to you by Perch. Perch is a 3D camera-based weight room technology solution, bringing VBT into the 21st century. This week, Nika will discuss introducing technology to athletes. So important. We need to have that buy-in. We need to have them understand what we're doing when we're using some of the technology that we're using. All right, Perform Better. They are doing a FMS Level 1 and 2 live with Dr. Lee Burton on November 18th and 19th at the Perform Better headquarters. You can pick one or you can pick both. You'll also get the online versions as well. Very cool. At Perform Better headquarters in Rhode Island. Check it all out at PerformBetter.com. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. You can try the new StrengthCoach.com out for 7 days for free. Totally new format, user-friendly, and the same great forum. As always, it's the place where top coaches in the industry come to connect and learn. Guys, check it out, 7 days for free. And today happens to be the anniversary 15 years to the day that I released episode 0, which was really just Coach Boyle and I coming on to talk about what StrengthCoach.com is and what we were going to be doing on our brand new, what's called a podcast. So, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel like it's like the episode, the anniversary of Star Wars or something.
I know. We're yeah, because we're also like commemorating, we did a special interview, 40 Mistakes in 40 Years, that I'm releasing next week. And I'll tell everybody how to get that later on, but we're going to be kind of promoting that a lot. And that was a much longer interview. I have a little extra time today, but this is a much longer interview. We talked about those 40 mistakes. So looking forward to letting everybody have that. But yeah, it does feel like, this extended celebration. And I'm
Anthony strikes back.
there you go. Coach, let's get right into it. So I kind of feel like we're going to talk about some topics that we've been talking about for a long time because things change. And one of those things is speed. And we talked about this in 40 Mistakes. You've been talking about it for a while. And one of those things was obviously you timing, and you kind of really wish you did that sooner. But one of the things that is, weren't you getting great results all those years, the early years? I'm talking like Pete Williams is even saying you invented the combine training. I mean, you were getting results. You were focusing on strength. You weren't timing. You were focusing on injury prevention. You're maybe, let's say, being conservative for the most part, I guess. So how do we explain that piece of it too? I mean, you were getting results.
Well, it's interesting. So talk about success leaves clues, and you're too dumb to follow your own clues. It's like I was dropping my own breadcrumbs and then not following them, because when I was training combine guys, we were timing. We timed all the time with the combine guys. But at that time, if you can imagine, the timers were a lot more kind of wonky than they were now. And you had a little hand pad that you had to get down to be able to get the hand started. And you had a wire from the hand pad to the timer. And truthfully, it was a pain in the ass to set up the timers. So when you start getting to your team sessions, you start looking at this and thinking, do I really want to drag the timer out? And do I really want to sit here and fight with the guys about, get your hand on the thing and don't take your hand off before there was just all kinds of bullshit, to be honest, that went along with it. And then I was also too dumb to realize, and this was kind of the Tony Holler thing, that if we could just look at the fly segment, we'd be better off. So then we didn't have to worry about starts. Now there was no hand timer. We're just using 2 sets of gates. And the guys, depending on where we start, we were starting, 5-yard fly, 10-yard fly. There was just a lot of things that we did that made what we had done really successfully through our combine period way more user-friendly and mass-producible for our everyday sports performance people. The arena gear, I mean, that was, and oh my God, it's Lee Weber on Twitter had said, you got to look at this arena gear timer. And he said, it's a barrel racing timer for rodeo, but it's really good. And I thought, what the heck? I hated the Brower, to be honest. Chris Boyle probably cringe because he's sponsoring the show. And I'm saying that I don't like, but I didn't like the Brower. I didn't like the new timing box on the Brower. There were all these things that I didn't like. And I said, and this is when I talk to the tech people all the time, I just want something simple. And the arena gear is, you turn it on, you run, you get a time. Okay. We can time a lot of people now. We can crank them out. And people have said, I can't time that many kids. I'm like, we run one right after another. Literally, when one person gets through the gate and peels out of the way, the next person can go.
Amazing. And anybody that's listened to you, well, at least for the last 15 years, knows you talk a lot about logistics. This is coming back to logistics. It's coming down to practicality. It's kind of like the Easter ham story, right? In the pot where, hey, Grandma, why did you do this? Well, we couldn't afford a big pot, so we had to cut the ham or, cut the bone off. And so that's why, wait a minute, really? I mean, that's why we've been doing this? You're telling me you weren't timing because it was just a pain in the ass, really? That's at the end of the day.
It's funny, but even weight room design, when I rewrote designing strength training programs and facilities, so that'll probably come out maybe January, February, hopefully. But that was one of the things that I changed in the facility design thing. I was like, have the longest sprint area that you can have, because then it gets into, and I keep alluding back to the Tony Holler stuff, but when you start realizing that there's nothing, you're not going to do anything faster or more explosive than the fastest that you can run. So when you start thinking about explosive training or velocity-based training or whatever you're going to do, there's nothing more powerful than actually running sprints. And so for us, I had one of my former athletes, Charlie Johnson, who's out in San Diego now and has been a strength coach for 20 years, which I can't believe. He's like, it's my 20th year at the school. I was shocked when he said that to me today. But that's what we talked about in terms of this to me, this is the biggest change in what we're doing. And I think it's the most powerful thing that we've changed.
Mike, would you have even had the room? I know you're talking about that now. Like, hey, this is the way I would have designed it. But did you even have room for that kind of mass-produced type of stuff back then?
We did. Remember my BU weight room? I did have that turf strip.
BU, yes.
Not for flies, but even in the old BU weight room upstairs, I put Mondo track surface in deliberately for that. And I used to time up there, but it was the same thing. It was the old I'm trying to think, God, I can't even think what predated the Brower, but we had one that looked a little more like the arena gear, plastic heads, but it literally had a start block that plugged in. And I mean, flies, multiple photocells. That was like, me, I'm struggling to get the link for the Zoom call. So I wasn't, and that's what I disliked about the Brower. Brower went from having a simple hand start thing. They developed this little box that has like 9 numbers on it, and you got to press the right number. I could never figure out what number to get it. Start on 1 beep, start on 2, you put your hand down, the thing beeps, then you're ready to go. I say this all the time about tech, but nobody copies Apple like they should, right? The Apple stuff is so easy to use, so intuitive. And that's the key to tech, because you're trying to get people to adopt tech. Maybe in strength and conditioning, you're trying to get people like me, 60-year-olds, to adopt tech. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and also, like you said with Apple, everything you open with Apple, it's ready to go. I got something else at somebody else, and I'm sitting there. You got to charge it. I'm like, it's funny. I'm getting spoiled, right? But like when you have a lot of Apple products, even the Mac, even the computer, never mind the phone you just plug it in. You go through, what language, a bunch of crap like that, and then you don't have to charge it. Like, you're dying to open this thing and get it going. It's amazing.
Well, I can remember when I first got my laptop, and they were like, "Oh, you got to download LapLink. It's a program, and then you got to get a special cable, and then you got to plug your cable into your other computer, and then you got to type this in." And now Apple, basically, you put them next to each other, and they talk to each other, and you press a couple buttons and leave them there. Next thing you know, everything's gone from one to the other. Amazing. And that's why they're one of the highest valued companies in the world, because they make it simple. And that's what we're driving to do.
Yeah, and any up and coming strength coach who figures out or comes up with some kind of technology, that's always going to be the best advice. Never mind specifically the software, because somebody out there is always going to beat your software. But when you're doing things like that, like supposedly if we go back to iPhone, I never did the other ones, the Androids or whatever, but supposedly a lot of people say that technology is actually superior. I don't know this, but why is Apple so much more popular? Because it was so easy.
And it's always been easy. And Apple people will stay Apple people. You won't get Apple people who are going to switch to Android.
I am not switching.
My friend David Baxter, who's now, I think he's president. He's president of the Americas at Under Armour. And I remember we had a conversation one time, and he said, Apple, he was like, just keep buying Apple stock. He said, because what they're doing is they're seeding the market with iPods and iPod Nanos and iPod Shuffles, and all the kids get all these little Apple toys. And then what do they want? They want the iPhone. And then the person that has the iPhone, they're not buying a PC. They're buying a Mac. They're going to get a MacBook Air, and they're going to get an iPad. And it's like you've created a lifetime of customers from these little toys that we had in the beginning.
Yeah, so cool. Coach, I wasn't even thinking about asking this, but it reminded me, you were just saying like you're never going to get that kind of speed unless you sprint. And you're still teaching the barbell hang clean, but you used to talk a lot about snatches. I don't really hear you talking a lot about that. Was that just like, I know you probably still like it, but we got to take something out at some point. Was that a casualty?
Yes, and that's interesting, because I was just saying that to my friend Charlie that was in today, in terms of I have Mark and his friends doing snatches 1 day a week because they're good enough at the clean. They've cleaned enough. And I think that's what happens is you just don't have people, you don't get enough exposure, especially in our business now, because we don't get the 52-week-a-year college kid, because I'm not a college strength coach anymore. So my 52-week-a-year group is effectively my hockey girls. I have them pretty much year round now. But other than that, we see people for 10 and 12-week intervals. And, if we're lucky, a little bit longer. And it's exactly that. Snatching is one of those things that has kind of fallen by the wayside because even now, even with cleans, a lot of time we trap our jump a lot because it's just easier. It's faster to learn. It's almost, trap bar jump is almost one of those things that's really hard to screw up.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. I meant to ask that the other day in our 40 mistakes, 40 years, but we obviously talked about so many things, but early specialization, another thing we've been talking about this on this show for literally 15 years to the day. You posted a David Epstein article talking about Roger Federer, and his parents were saying, if they nudged him at all, it was to stop taking tennis so seriously. And his father only had one mandate: just don't cheat. And he talked about, he sampled skiing, wrestling, swimming, skateboarding, basketball, handball, table tennis, badminton, and soccer. His path was actually more typical than a Tiger Woods, who is more the exception. Tiger Woods obviously has gotten so much more press, really, if you really think about it. And he did. Tiger does claim he played a couple other sports, though, and supposedly guys from Stanford always said he was a really amazing athlete whenever they did anything else. But the argument to this, Coach, just to talk, because you said you posted, say, on a Coach's Minute on Instagram about, look, if you want him to be good, right? But the one good thing about probably this idea about early specialization, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, is that it does lend time to develop that sport-specific skill and technique. And that skill acquisition takes time, repetition, practice, right? And even Roger Federer said it, if you only start focusing too much on one sport, if you focus too much on one sport, you feel like you can get burned out, and then you start seeing the sport for a job rather than actually a hobby. I still see tennis as my hobby. And I also see that as probably the number one thing with early specialization, because we do have a lot of people who did make it just specializing. I know there's more, but I just wanted to play devil's advocate and talk to you about that.
But I think there's way more, and I think it doesn't get talked about enough, because even I didn't watch King Richard. I have to watch King Richard. But when I was reading, Epstein wrote another article about Venus and Serena Williams too, and talked about the fact that he didn't really push them, and that they were involved in theater and in the arts. And so I think there's some mythology around specialization too, in terms of, it's like you said, Tiger was a good athlete. The difference is, where I think maybe I would disagree with you, is that in the early sampling period, you're actually getting more of those general skills. I always go back to Greg Rose's kind of cyclone circuit idea. And you want, even if you said, I want my kid to be a great golfer, or I want him to be a great hockey player, or whatever it is, one of the reasons Michaela is a really good hockey player, I always said, is because of soccer. Because she's really good with her feet. And hockey obviously is played, with your hands and with an extension of your hands. But as you know, sometimes people are going to pass it in your feet. And, people that have good skills very often can pick pucks up in their feet. And you'll watch the kids, the Europeans particularly, who've played a lot of soccer, who just, bad pass in their skates, they kick it right onto their stick, no problem. And that's the stuff that you get from being a multi-sport athlete. Even if you think, again, what's hockey, right? It's striking an object that's moving with another object that's an extension of your hands. Well, that's the same skill that you're going to develop in baseball. That's the same skill that you're going to develop in field hockey. That's the same skill. I always said that was Mark. My son adapted to lacrosse really well because he was playing baseball and playing ice hockey. And in ice hockey, the objective is to score goals. In baseball, the objective is to catch a ball in a glove that's extended. And suddenly you get lacrosse, and it's like, well, wait, my glove, I got a glove on a stick basically now, and I got to catch with a glove on a stick, and then I got to throw it in the net just like I do in hockey. He walked into lacrosse and thought, oh, I can play this better than most people tomorrow. And I haven't been here for a day, but because I know how to catch, and I know how to throw, and I know where the net is, and I know, what people are moving. I know to find the open person. And I think the difference is in this, Gil Shapani, one of my former athletes, commented on my Instagram. and said, when do you start to specialize? And that's the difference, is that I think you've got, your 6 to 10-year-old, literally throw the freaking smorgasbord at them. Swim, do gymnastics, do martial arts, play t-ball, play youth soccer, do everything you can possibly do during that time period to develop a kid with a broad range of motor skills. Then maybe even at 10, say, okay, we're going to pick 2, or maybe we're even going to pick 3. And maybe we're going to pick a favorite one, or one that we think, he or she is best at, but we're going to keep going with 3. 14, you might decide, hey, I got a kid like that was Michaela. Michaela's going to be a college hockey player. I knew that. I had no question. She was like, Dad, I'm done. I don't want to do soccer anymore. I'm done with diving. I'm done with swimming. And I was like, okay, we can throw all our eggs in the hockey basket now at 14, because you've literally won a judo state championship. You've taught yourself to be a diver. You've been a swimmer. You've been a soccer player. You've been a really good ice hockey player. You've been pretty good at all of those pursuits, but you've said, here's my favorite and I want to go for it. I'm all for that at that stage. What I'm not for is the kid that's on the select soccer team at 6, traveling, or, baseball, traveling at 6 years old and thinking, this is insane. Even go into, football, the kids that are playing Pop One football. I can tell you that I could find you 100 articles about NFL football players who weren't letting their kids play till middle school because they were worried about concussions and they were worried about brain development. And so my point, and the point of today's Instagram post and this conversation right now, is to say to people, if what you really want is a good specialist, then be a good generalist first, because that's what's going to make you. I can't tell you how many people that we saw, like kids, where you'd say, they're, okay, they're all right at baseball. They're just not very good athletes. And those are the guys, when you look at the people that are going to make it in Major League Baseball, they're people that can run and people that can jump and people that can hit, the 5-tool guy. The 5-tool guys are a real good athlete. You might have a kid and think, he's worked really, really hard and he's in the cage all the time and we hit ground balls all the time. And you think, but is he really a good athlete? Is he somebody that, can he run the bases? Is he Mookie Betts? Can he run the ball down in the outfield? That kind of thing. And you're like, no, not that. He's probably going to have to play second base where he doesn't have to have a big range, and the throw's not that hard to first base. And he'll probably be a good, hit for average. He's got a good eye for the strike zone. You're like, yeah. If you're that guy, you'll be lucky to be a good high school player.
Yeah. And going back to even, Marky, because it reminds me of me as a kid. We came home, I'm 55, but came home, right? Played every sport, whatever season it was. I always played street hockey, but at the same time, with the other kids, I played baseball first. We played on the street, or we played touch football or tackle football or kill a guy with the ball or basketball, whatever. We played absolutely everything. So every sport that I picked up, I'm not saying that I was good at it, but I picked up sports so quick. Golf was one of them that I'm not a great golfer, but I don't play. I don't even practice. The best compliment I ever got was, you look like a really good golfer who's just having a bad day. I said, I'll take it, And I said, that is amazing, right? Because we're athletic. And look at Marky. Marky goes, he's playing these other sports and he's dedicated. We're in the gym, but then he goes and decides to go out for golf as senior year and he makes the team. That is no small feat. And it's because of his athleticism.
Without question. And that's why, but it's the same thing. People will always tell you, he can shoot a hockey puck. He can shoot a lacrosse ball with velocity, all that stuff. It's not coincidental. It is all very much, and I won't say by design, but it is kind of by design in the sense that he was brought up with the idea. I always think that sport, because it wasn't lacrosse. I think the sport comes to you. If I'd looked at Michaela, just because of BU and where she was and what I was doing, hockey was very natural for her. But with Mark, I wasn't thinking. I thought hockey, because same reason as Michaela, and he really liked baseball. Baseball, he loved. He loved the challenge. He wanted to catch. He wanted to be in a challenging position. And lacrosse was just an afterthought. Hey, let's get him involved in lacrosse. And he didn't really like it. Didn't think it was very much fun because there weren't enough kids that could play. His whole career, our friend Bobby Granara probably saved, or made Mark a lacrosse player, because Mark was like, I'm not playing lacrosse anymore. The practices are so bad. It's so boring. No one can catch. No one can throw. It's like you just go out there and pick balls up off the ground. It's just stupid. And our friend Bobby, who coached the kids all through youth, said, we have a select team. Bring them to a select practice. Just bring them, do me a favor, bring them to one practice. We brought him to the one select practice, dropped him off, not thinking anything about it. Went back to get him, and he was like, his eyes were like saucers. He was like, Dad, every single kid there could catch. He was like, we did drills, we scrimmaged. He was like, it was unbelievable. Because what we were trying to do at the town level was to divide all the kids up. So everybody, we might have had 6, U10 town lacrosse teams. And who knows, 120 kids playing lacrosse, something like that. And those 6 teams might have had 3 kids on each team who could actually catch and throw. And generally, you didn't put them all out there together. But when suddenly all 18 of those kids went and got together, it was life-changing.
Yeah.
And again, it's funny. Somebody in the Instagram posted, just specialize, but let the kids play outside, and it's too expensive for multiple sports. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. I mean, most in town, and again, he may be in a more rural area, but here, like where we live in Reading, town lacrosse is not expensive. Little League baseball is not expensive. Hockey is expensive. Hockey's even at the town level is going to be a more expensive sport. But you could pretty much play soccer, baseball, basketball, lacrosse for very, very short money in a town setting and have no problem. So I don't think that that's a valid excuse either.
Yeah, and speaking of money, Lee Tafton talked about a conversation he had with a parent. They spent $100,000 on travel ball skill development. The kid got a partial scholarship, right? So they're in major debt, and there's no guarantees that the kid even finishes college baseball. And so a lot of people look at that like, well, we want to get them in school. But meanwhile, like you should probably spend a little bit like less money on that skill development, and you'll have that money left over for college.
Well, and there is, and I don't know if it's, again, and it's cool because David Epstein has started to comment back, at least on my Twitter stuff, which I think is pretty cool. But I think it was him that said, you're actually much better off putting that much money into tutoring. If your real goal is to get your kid into school, you're much better off taking the time that you're putting into sports and the money that you're putting into sports and putting it into tutoring. The difference is, will your kid be as well-rounded? Will your kid be as happy? I don't think so. But I don't think you shouldn't be doing it with the idea that there's some financial payoff. If you're doing that, you're insane. And it's probably not going to work, because if you're doing it that way, you're probably doing everything else wrong too. And it's just compounded errors over time in the sense that the kid's probably not enjoying it because you're way too literally invested. Like you're invested in it to the point of thinking that this investment that I'm making in my child is going to pay off down the road with them being a college athlete and getting a scholarship. That's a real ass backwards way. I've always looked at sports and thought, hopefully sports will allow my kids to be better functioning adults. They're going to learn to be on a team. They're going to learn to compete. They're going to learn to cooperate. There's all these lessons that you learn from sport that are going to be really, really valuable. And I've been lucky. Caleb was a full scholarship player that we didn't pay for college. And so it's, Mark's already, he's committed. Hasn't gotten in because he's not accepted, but he's got a place to go and he's got a place to play. And it's all working out really well for us. So I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's that whole thing when they focus on that, like Dante, one of the hockey players that I trained, that he went to Kent, did amazing there, but he's kind of small, so he didn't get picked up at a college. So that route is what you go to junior hockey, right? He's in junior hockey. He broke his hand the other day, but he's talking to Middlebury because that's how smart the kid is. He focused on school. He always wanted to go to Middlebury. Is no joke to get into. So thank God he has that education, that scholar athlete stuff that he can fall back on. And he's all right. It's Division III, but I don't think he really had any designs on.
Exactly. But the difference is if you think that you can use hockey to get you into Middlebury or into Amherst,
yes,
Williams, those places are They are as competitive as Harvard, as Yale, as any Ivy League school. As
Absolutely.
Stanford. And the fact that you're a good enough hockey player to get you into those places is a huge plus. And that's, again, I guess the whole point of the post is all these people don't get it. They just have the wrong idea. They think they're going to get a scholarship. Two, they think that being on the U6, the U8 team that goes to the brick tournament, is the key. This is why their kid's going to make the big time. And it just doesn't happen.
Mike, any resistance to that stuff at all, really? Like, you get a lot of resistance for a lot of stuff you do, but have you gotten much resistance on this idea?
I would say no, because I think my audience is maybe a little bit pre-selected or self-selected, so they're kind of used to hearing this. So I don't get as much, but I do get some. I mean, over time, more so like in town, with talking to parents, with people who don't know what I do. When I've tried to helpfully explain to people sometimes that, hey, this is actually really the wrong idea. And I get people who tell me, like, I know what I'm talking about. That's like one of my tweets yesterday. People always, I know a guy who said that this is the way to do it. And I kind of look and think, has said guy, like, has he done it? Like, has he seen a whole bunch of kids do it? Has he been working his whole life in this field and has numerous positive success stories related to this? Or is he just some guy who works for your local select hockey or select soccer or whatever it is organization? Usually it's just literally some guy who's usually trying to make a program better for his kid. That's usually the guy.
Yeah. Coach, can we talk a little bit about 12 great air bike workouts? I'm doing a thing for 50 for 50 where I'm going on my own journey. And a lot of this inspired by Dr. Andy Galpin's interview, where he's talking about we need that full high heart rate at least once a week, but we also need that medium. I love the way he made it so simple. He's like, yeah, you got your zone 2, great. You're low, you're medium, you're high. If we start to think about it like that, but I haven't been doing enough of the high stuff lately, let's say 2 years. And I'm doing the great air bike workouts again because last year I did them for about a month for my knee. Right. I was really on the bike pre-surgery. I wanted to make sure I was in the best shape I could. But I don't love and I told people, that's the caveat. Coach Boyle writes this a lot of times for athletes. He starts out with a 10-20 as a great introduction. I start out with a 10-50 because obviously I'm talking to 50-year-olds. I don't want them to kill themselves. This, and again, even the people that are cleared, like I want to make sure that they're diving in a little. So I'll go 10-50 for, that kind of quick 2 to 3 week phase one, and then 15-45s for the next one. So I'm really going 1 to 5 work to rest ratio, then 1 to 3, then I'll get in, and I won't do 20-10s. I'll do 20-40, but I'll still do the 10-20 like you did with one of your workouts. You kind of split them. You're like, here's a quick introduction to the Tabata. For me, that 20 seconds is a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. And
what do you think about that?
Sure. I think it's fine. Like what we do instead, we just try to encourage them in the 10-20 to not, because one of the things will be like, and this is why we always talk about in the staff meeting, you need to know. So if I got you, and I'm saying, Anthony, I want you to do 10-20, and I don't want it to be hard, then I'm going to tell you, I want you to ride between 60 and 70 RPMs for 10 seconds. That's all I want you to do.
Okay.
And I want you to spin the pedals for 20. So I'm not, because you would, like me, I would be hitting 80 on the 10. Maybe not, I wouldn't be at 80 the whole time, but I would get, I'd be like 5-6 seconds, I'm hitting 80, and I might hold 80, 79 for the remaining 5 or 6 seconds. Whereas getting it up over 60, the average 50-year-old probably can do that pretty easily. So we might just say, because all I want is a little bit of this up and down, but probably not what Andy was talking about in terms of, I don't want that to elicit that really high heart rate effect, because I'm looking at this as sort of intro to interval training. Here's what I want you to do. Go hard, go easy, go hard, go easy. You shouldn't be dying. You shouldn't be panting. And then we'll progress from there. But what we might progress with our 1020s is just the RPMs in terms of, hey, here's what I want you to do. Now I want you to try to hit 70 on every one. Don't be between 60 and 70, but try to get 70 on every one. And that'll be based kind of loosely for us if we can get people to do that MAS. So, get a 2 mile time on them, or again, be able to look and think, okay, what's really unfit? What's a really unfit person's 2 mile time? Probably 6 minutes or so. They're probably going to be under 60 RPMs. They're probably like 50, 55. So that way, if you just say to that person, hey, just hit 60 for a couple seconds, drop it down, you're going to be okay. But you could do it the other way. I worry about the 1050, and I probably shouldn't, but I worry that they'll recover too much during the 50, that 5-1 might be too much for them, or that they might go too hard on the 10. And I really don't want the 10 to be hard.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Cause you were talking about, 120, 120% of MAS. So for example, I did 459 on the 2 mile test, which is a 63, and you called it. You said it's going to be 63 or 64. I got 63. So my RPMs are supposed to be 75.6, right? So 75 or 76 RPMs. And you're right. It's hard to get that number. Because you're right, I pretty much went up to 80. Again, I'm a little different right now. I'm in a better shape than the average person, but I do need to dial back for those people to say, don't get crazy, because it shouldn't be 120% in the beginning. That's another thing. It should just be dialed down a little bit. 100%.
If we said 110, it's pretty easy. Like now I'm doing, like I did the basically 4 times 4 minutes. So I did 4 times a mile and a half, and I just do those at my MAS speed. So I'm riding 1.5 miles at about the speed of my best 2 miles. So, I'm riding the 1.5 miles in like 350, and it's, 60, it's in that like 62, 63 kind of range, but I can do that repeatedly. And I'm almost, because my recovery is really good, I'm almost, 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. I mean, 4 minutes on, 1 minute off, because I recover fast. And that's it. Actually, we were talking about that on strengthcoach.com too. I'm trying to figure out, because, all the zone 2 people, and I'm sort of like, I need to understand what, even like with Charlie, talking about, the zone 2 is more eccentric and the higher is more concentric. And I'm kind of like, but if I'm moving through all those zones and I'm only spending, 5 seconds at a time in the top end zone, am I getting zone 2 if I go through it? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, if I wanted to visit Larchmont, if I drive through Larchmont with the windows up and the radio on, did I still go through Larchmont? Like, I did. Did I really, did I roll down the windows and smell the trees and look around? No, I didn't. But I went through it, and then I ended up in Peekskill. It's like, well,
yeah. Any thoughts on that medium stuff? Because I like that. It makes sense to me. Like, okay, I do enough. So I got the ruck on. I'm walking the dog for 2 miles, 2 to 5 miles a day. So that medium stuff, heart rate for me, which would be, 140s, low 150s, right? I feel like that does make sense. I'm watching a hockey game for 15, 20 minutes now doing that stuff.
Yeah, I can't. My problem is I can't get the low stuff, because if I walk, I don't get high enough. And I don't like the ruck idea, because it makes my neck, and I have trouble with my neck as it is. And so I have a backpack on, and so I find that I'm like zone 0. If I go for a walk, like yesterday, Cindy and I walked for 40 minutes, but I'm pretty sure I didn't break 100 beats a minute. Even I've gone out on my, like I can. The key for me is road bike. If I can, when we're up in Plum Island, we've got those cruiser bikes that have, there's no gears, and it's pretty flat. But even that, I'm like 120 most of the time on there. It's not like then like Andy Galpin was saying, it's that assault bike work. Like today I did 459. And I had a few beers this weekend. So 459 was a lot harder than 459 should have been. I should be able to do that anytime I want. And today I sold out to get under 5 minutes. Like the last minute was pretty hard.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, we'll keep talking about that, because I'm on the journey to again, for me, it's called Change of Heart, because I'm trying to change this idea. And Rhonda Cat really put that in my head too, is it's not just for fat loss. Let's make that heart, make sure the heart is nice and healthy. And good stuff. Well, Coach, thanks for doing this. Thanks for the extra time today. And 15 years, kind of crazy, but thanks for doing this.
Pleasure. Thank you. I always say this, but thank you. It's been better for me than it's been for you. So I appreciate it.
I don't know about that, but.
Listen to this if you want to get more referrals. Hey guys, my name is Vince Gabriele. Welcome to the Business Secrets for Gym Owners. I got a quick one for you today. Hence, they're always quick because Anthony only gives me 5 minutes to give you these game-changing ideas. Imagine if I get 10 minutes. Anyway, here's the understanding of what you got to realize about referrals. Most gym owners, they get referrals by accident, meaning the stars align and something happens where a client bumps into a friend and they get to talking about fitness or whatever. And it comes to the point that they get to talking about you and that your website comes up, and then the person goes home and they Google you and they go to your website and they opt in and you call them and then they come in and become a member, right? It's like, if you really think about it, it's so rare for this to happen by accident. Now, it does happen, right? But it happens by accident. And so what you want to do is, because we know, and I don't got to teach you this because I don't have a lot of time, but you know that the best clients you can get are through referrals. And so what you want to do is you want to set up situations, what I call intentional referral strategies, that there's intentional things that your business does to generate more referrals. And I saw this through, there's a program called HelloFresh, which is like a meal company, and they have an app. And on the app, you can click a button that says send a free week of meals to a friend. And it's just like, just push this button and all of a sudden you just send a free week of meals. Magically, it all happens. And that is a great example of an intentional referral tactic. It's something they put in your visibility every time you go into that app about getting a new referral. So it's a brilliant, brilliant strategy. And so what you need to do is you need to fill your gym with these strategies. If you want to get more clients through referral, you need intentional tactics. So let me give you one idea. If I have time, maybe I'll give you another one. Here's the first one. There's a guy named Tim Ferriss who has a great podcast, which I'm an avid listener of, and he has a thing he sends out called 5 Bullet Friday. And what it is basically an email that he sends about 5 different pieces of information, right? And we stole the idea and took the same thing, and we do something called 4 Bullet Friday, right? Where we take, different cool ideas about fitness and health and everything like that, and we send it to our members. Now, just our members. It's an email that goes to just our members, not our full email list. And at the end of every email, there's a PS, right? And we're not beating them over the head, with it. It says, send us referrals, send us referrals. No, we're just saying, hey, PS, you got a friend that, wants to come in, and it tells them how to do it in the PS, right? But the key is we send this email every Friday, 52 times a year. Send it every week, right? And so now you have an intentional referral tactic that's happening on a consistent basis, right? So that is a one quick example of how to use this intentional tactic on a very, very regular basis. And then we have other strategies. Here's the second one that we do around the holidays, where we give each of our members a free month to give as a gift to a friend. And I talk about this one at length. If you want more details on this, listen to my full episode this month on the Strength Coach podcast. But I went over this deep with Anthony, right? And you give a gift, you give out a free month for your friend to give as a gift, right? And it's a great time because people are giving gifts already. Their mind is on that thing already. And now that you can take one of their holiday gifts off their plate and get them to send their friends to you. But the bottom line is this: referrals are your best clients. It's rare that it actually happens. If you sit around and wait for it to happen by accident, it's probably not going to happen as much as you want it to. So what you need to do is you need to create intentional tactics and have intentional things built into your business that you do on a very, very regular basis, sometimes once a year, sometimes every week. But there are specific things that you're doing, and you're building these referral tactics into your business so you can get more referrals on a consistent basis. So if this was helpful to you, and you want access to some of examples of my 4 Bullet Friday emails, and you want to actually get the full system for what I use in that holiday card that I talked about, if you go to club.vincegabriel.com, I've loaded it all in there for you. The way to get it is to sign up for a $1 trial in my Marketing Master Insiders Club. So you get access to the holiday card system, and you get access to the 4 Bullet Friday sample emails. Plus, you get all kinds of good stuff that you'll see when you get there. So just go to club.vincegabriel.com to get all that, and I will see you next time on the show. Peace.
Hey everyone, welcome to Getting Started with VBT or Velocity-Based Training, brought to you by Perch, a 3D camera-based weight room technology solution bringing VBT into the 21st century. I am Nika Ouellette, and I'm the head of marketing and education for Perch. And in this series on the Strength Coach podcast, we cover all things related to velocity-based training. On today's segment, we want to address an FAQ that we get a ton at Perch, which is, how easy is this to implement with my athletes? We hear you and we understand the trepidation when it comes to introducing any weight room technology. It can seem like a big undertaking and a little bit daunting. But ultimately, the advice we give is just what we've heard our coaches tell us as to how they introduced VBT and other weight room tech to their athletes. Introducing and teaching technology is ultimately no different than teaching a new lift. The first time you bring it into your weight room, you're going to take the same 5 steps. Number 1, explain what it is and why it is important to your athletes. Number 2, walk through the steps for how to do it or how to use it properly. Number 3, give a dynamite demonstration so they know what good looks like. Number 4, reiterate your most important points. And number 5, one more demo for the road and then set them loose. Using technology is a skill that can be acquired the same as any other skill in the weight room. And whether it's timing gates, jump mats, force plates, heart rate monitors, or VBT devices, technology can enhance training sessions, increase athlete buy-in, and improve athlete performance both in the weight room and on the field. All you have to do is teach them. With VBT and with Perch specifically, if there's a lot of apprehension, we recommend sinking in pretty slowly and getting used to the interface and feedback for about a week or so before getting more nuanced and setting zones and logging users in. But we leave it up to the practitioner. You know what your athletes are capable of incorporating, and athletes of this generation gravitate towards technology better than any we've ever seen. Weight room technology can ultimately enhance training, compliance, and motivation when used properly. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. That is all for today. Thank you for listening. And if you have any more questions about VBT or want more information and special deals, head to perch.fit/strengthcoach. That is perch.fit/strengthcoach. Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 345 of the Strength Coach podcast on our 15th anniversary. Actually, 409 episodes altogether. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for listening, especially those people who were there in the beginning. I know there's still a lot of you out there that tell me they've listened to every single episode. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being part of this. Don't forget, guys, you can try the new strengthcoach.com out for 7 days for free. Totally new format, user-friendly, same great forum as always. Go to strengthcoach.com, click the join now button to get started on your free trial. Special thanks to Chris Parrier and the folks over at Perform Better. They have been here from day one. Wouldn't be here without them. Appreciate Chris Parrier for just taking a chance and, just really sticking with me this whole time. And they are doing an FMS level 1 and 2 live with Dr. Lee Burton on November 18th and 19th at Perform Better headquarters. You can pick one day or you can do both. You can get the online versions as well. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Once again, thanks to Coach Boyle for the last 15 years, and be on the lookout for that anniversary interview, 40 mistakes in 40 years. Thanks to Nomley, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Go to nomley.com. Use the referral code StrengthCoach to get started on a free 30-day trial. Thanks to Vince Gabriele and Kiss Marketing. If you need some help with your marketing, head over to kissmarketing.net to book a free coaching call with Will Matheson. He'll take a look at your current marketing plan and give you some real-time profit-boosting advice. Go to kissmarketing.net to book that free coaching call. Thanks to Nika Ouellette and Perch Perch is a 3D camera-based weight room technology solution bringing VBT into the 21st century. Head over to perch.fit/strength coach to find out more about it. They have some great videos showing the cameras as well as how to use it. My name is Anthony Arena. Check out the show notes at continuefit.com or strengthcoachpodcast.com. Guys, thanks again for listening. If you're even listening this long, I appreciate you. That's going to do it. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.